At the first, I want to ask you our traditional question. No one forced you to accept Islam.
No.
We want you to tell us about the conversations you made with yourself, in your inner mirror, until you declared the Shahada. There is no God but Allah, and Muhammad is a messenger from Allah. We want you to tell us about your autobiography until you accept Islam actually. We are listening.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. You know, Allah Almighty works in our lives in extraordinary ways. And one of the problems in our lives as Muslims is that we don't take time to see where Allah is guiding us. When I look back on my life now, I can see that right from the day I was born, right to this moment when I'm sitting with you here tonight, Allah Almighty had a plan for me. And He was working His plan out all through my life. So when I was sitting in Rome, listening to lectures about church history and about the Bible, really I can see now that I wasn't really studying for the priesthood. I was studying to be with you tonight, to be speaking to these people on the TV. And Allah Almighty uses all the events of our lives, all of the events, to make us the people that we are. So I don't reject any part of my life. I don't reject it at all. When I'm giving I give talks now all over the world about Islam, and I always begin my talks by saying to the audience, if any of you have come here today to hear me criticize the church or the Pope or the Bible, you've come to the wrong talk. Because all I have in my heart is love for those people who brought me to where I am today. Okay? So my first experience of Islam, if that's what you're asking me, when I was a priest, before Islam, I knew nothing about Islam. I knew nothing about Muslims. I'd never even met a Muslim. I'd never spoken to a Muslim. I'd seen them in the street. And I knew that Muslims chopped your hands off, and they hit ladies, and they blew themselves up. But I'd never met a Muslim before. And I came on holiday to Egypt. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. I came to Egypt. And a little boy in the street selling bananas was the first Muslim I ever met. And he greeted me. The first words I ever heard from a Muslim were, Assalamu alaikum. And for the rest of the week that I was in Cairo on holiday, I passed that little boy in the street, and the little boy I learnt some Egyptian words, and I learnt to say to the little boy, Zayak ya Habibi. And he replied to me each day, Alhamdulillah. And I went back to London at the end of that week, and I didn't know much about Islam, but I had met Muslims. And Muslims, like the little boy, had taught me to say as-salam, the greeting of peace, not chopping hands and blowing yourself up, but peace. So that little boy, and it's important, forgive me if I'm talking too much, it's important for us as Muslims to remember that on Judgment Day we'll give an account to Almighty Allah for the words we've spoken and the example we've given about Islam. And on Judgment Day, that little boy will get a great surprise, because he'll appear before Allah Almighty, and it will be read out in his book, all the shahadas that have been declared as a result of him introducing me to Islam, all the words that have been written about Islam because of him, all of the television programs because of that little boy, and all of the blessings come from him, and he knows nothing about it. And Allah Almighty will bless him abundantly on Judgment Day for the good example he gave.
رائع. Until translation.
Okay.
طبعا سألته أن يحكي لنا أو أن يقص علينا سيرته الذاتية منذ البداية، فبدأ بعبارات ملهمة جعلتني شخصيا أحس بالتهيب، لأن لهذا الرجل رؤية وبصيرة ثاقبة. فهو يقول الله عز وجل هو الذي أعد لي هذه الخطة، وهي خطة قدرية لا يد لي فيها، لكن الله عز وجل أراد لي أن أولد في إنجلترا، وأن أسافر إلى روما، وأن أتلقى محاضرات لاهوتية في أروقة الفاتيكان، وأراد لي أن آتي إلى مصر، وأراد لي أن أعتنق الإسلام بعد ذلك، وأن أصبح داعية. الله عز وجل هو الذي رسم لي هذه الخطة القدرية، وأنا حفي وسعيد بها. ذكر لي شيئا مهما، قال لي: لم آتي اليوم لأنتقد الأناجيل، ولم آتي لأصب جام غضبي على البابوية، لم آتي لأنتقد أحدا، لكنني أردت أن أعرض سيرتي الذاتية أمام النواظر والعيون والأبصار والقلوب. وهو يقول لي: بالفعل كنت أسمع أن المسلمين إرهابيون مصاصون للدماء، وأنهم لا يفتؤون يضربون النساء. معلومات كانت تسرب من خلال الميديا، انطباع ترسخ في الرأي العام، ولأني جزء عضوي من هذا الرأي العام فقد تغلغل داخلي هذا الانطباع. لكن عندما زرت مصر ذهبت إلى السوق لشراء بعض الفاكهة، وقابلني غلام صغير غض، وابتسم في وجهي وأقرأني السلام، قال لي: السلام عليكم. أحسست في صوته بنوع من الطمأنينة، وفتحت معه حوارا. سألته عن حاله وشأنه، فقال لي باطمئنان، بثقة المؤمن وإيمان الواثق: الحمد لله. يقول إدريس توفيق: لم أعرف الكثير عن الإسلام في ذلك الوقت، اللهم إلا من خلال هذه المقابلات التي كنت ألتقي من خلالها بالمسلمين في الطريق. لكن عندما عدت إلى إنجلترا بدأت الدراسة المعمقة، وبدأ الاطلاع، وبدأ القراءة.